Today, we are going to explore 25 working-class German winter dishes from the 1950s through the 1970s. Dishes I challenge you to find being served in restaurants today. These were not elegant plates or chef's specials. They was survival food born of cramped flats, thin wallets, and winters when ice formed on the inside of single-pane windows. Each one carried a memory of endurance, flavor, and the kind of thrift modern Germany rarely sees. Eintopf remained the cornerstone of winter cooking in German households. The word itself means one pot, and the dish was exactly that. Everything the family had simmered together until it became something greater than its parts. Housewives turned to whatever was affordable: potatoes, carrots, cabbage, and perhaps a bone with scraps of meat still clinging to it. In the industrial cities of the Ruhr Valley, where coal miners returned home with blackened faces and empty stomachs, Eintopf waited on the stove, its steam filling kitchens with promise. The dish had deep roots in German culture, stretching back through generations of thrifty cooking. By the 1970s, it had shed its wartime associations and become simply what German families ate when the weather turned cold. Children grew up fishing for potatoes first, soft and saturated with broth, while fathers ladled steaming bowls after long shifts in the factories. The dish divided opinions at school canteens, where thin, watery versions were scorned. Yet at home, a well-made Eintopf was treasured. Regional variations multiplied. Pichelsteiner from Bavaria with 3 kinds of meat. Geisberger Marsch from Swabia. Birnen, Bohnen, und Speck. From the north, with its strange combination of pears, beans, and bacon. Each told you exactly where a family came from. It was never glamorous, never indulgent, but in a January kitchen where condensation gathered in the corners, the smell of slow-simmered vegetables and meat was as close as many came to comfort. Kartoffelsuppe offered another strategy for winter survival. Potato soup, thick and filling, appeared on tables from Hamburg to Munich, with regional variations that sparked endless debate. Housewives diced potatoes with carrots, leeks, and celery root, the classic Suppengruen bundle that anchored German cooking. A few slices of Wiener Würstchen, or chunks of bacon, transformed the humble soup into a proper meal. In working-class districts, potatoes cost only pfennigs per kilo, making this soup accessible even when wages ran short. Children slurped it without complaint. Fathers demanded seconds with thick slices of dark bread, and mothers valued its ability to stretch across 2 days without losing flavor. The smell of potatoes simmering with bay leaves and marjoram became shorthand for German winter itself. Grünkohl mit Pinkel stood proudly among northern winter dishes, though its appearance put off newcomers. This kale stew, cooked for hours with smoked sausages and bacon, emerged dark and dense from cast iron pots. Kale harvested after the first frost developed a sweetness that made the dish worthwhile, transforming bitter leaves into something almost addictive. In Bremen, Oldenburg, and across Lower Saxony, Grünkohl season ran from October through February, marked by Kootfahrten, walking tours where groups pulled handcarts loaded with schnapps toward pubs serving the dish. These tours became social institutions, with families and work colleagues organizing expeditions through frozen fields. Factory workers and dock workers ate it because it filled them for hours. The combination of kale, sausage, and rendered fat providing calories to burn through 12-hour shifts. The Pinkel sausage itself, made from oats, onions, and bacon, added a unique texture that divided opinion sharply. Children often picked around the fatty edges, grimacing at the soft casings. Mothers sighed at the hours needed for proper cooking, watching the kale darken through the afternoon, but fathers seemed consistently content, seeing in it both warmth and tradition. Some families insisted on Kassler, the smoked pork loin, while others demanded Kochwurst alongside the Pinkel. By the 1970s, Grünkohl had become identity food for northern Germans, a dish that said exactly where you came from and which grandmother's recipe you followed. When meat could not be spared at all, Bratkartoffeln filled the gap. Leftover potatoes, sliced and fried with onions until crisp at the edges, created a meal with no cost but time and a bit of lard. Monday, kitchens rang with the sizzle of potatoes hitting shallow pans, transforming Sunday scraps into another night's supper. In some homes, bacon fat added luxury. In others, it was simply potatoes, onions, and patience. The dish divided households sharply. Some demanded the potatoes nearly burnt at the edges. Others preferred them softer. It was never a favorite for Sunday dinner, but it was dependable. A plate that spoke of survival when the larder offered little else. Linsensuppe mit Würstchen stood among the most practical winter dishes. Lentil soup with sausages stretched small amounts of meat across large pots of filling stew. Dried lentils, imported cheaply, became staples of working-class cupboards. Housewives simmered them with carrots, celery, and vinegar, adding sliced frankfurters or bockwurst near the end. The soup divided families. Some loved the earthy depth. Others dreaded its thickness. Children pushed spoons reluctantly, while fathers welcomed the warmth after long shifts. In the industrial towns of the Saarland and North Rhine-Westphalia, lentil soup appeared on tables at least twice weekly during the coldest months. It was never glamorous, but in December, kitchens with little else, a pan of lentil soup meant the difference between going hungry and scraping through another week. Erbsensuppe, the German split pea soup, offered another lifeline during hard winters. Thick and heavy, it clung to spoons and filled stomachs for hours. A ham bone or kassler gave it depth, while a splash of vinegar cut through the richness. In Berlin, Aschinger's restaurant chain built its reputation on cheap pea soup with free bread rolls, feeding generations of working-class Berliners. The soup divided families. Some loved the heavy aroma that clung to kitchens. Others dreaded its density. Children grimaced, while fathers demanded second helpings. By the 1970s, pea soup remained on canteen menus across industrial Germany, a dish so tied to the economy that even modern restaurants hesitate to charge premium prices for it. Schmalzbrot stood as perhaps the starkest reminder of winter hardship. Housewives saved lard from roasting pork, cooled it, and spread it on thick slices of dark bread with a pinch of salt and sometimes Griebenschmalz, rendered fat with crackling pieces. For some, this was a treat. For others, a last resort. Bread remained the cheapest food available, and with working-class families consuming several loaves weekly, this combination appeared when cupboards ran bare. Children remember the pale fat cracking slightly under knives, leaving a salty smear across crusts. Some loved the savory richness. Others gagged at its greasy texture. Fathers ate it without complaint. In tenement streets from Berlin to Essen, Schmalzbrot was not a choice, but an inevitability. A bridge between Sunday's roast and Thursday's wages. Sauerbraten appeared on countless winter tables, though it required patience few modern cooks possess. The beef marinated for days in vinegar, red wine, and spices, then braised slowly until fork tender. Working-class families often used tougher, cheaper cuts, like brisket or shoulder, knowing the long marinade would break down the fibers. The tradition stretched back centuries, originally developed to tenderize and preserve meat before refrigeration. By the 1950s and the 1960s, Sauerbraten had become Sunday dinner's crown jewel. Housewives served it with rotkohl, the sweet-sour red cabbage braised with apples, and Kartoffelklöße, the potato dumplings that defined German Sunday dinners. The gravy, enriched with the marinade and thickened to glossy perfection, was considered as important as the meat itself. Children eyed the dark sauce with suspicion, particularly in regions where gingerbread crumbs and raisins gave it unexpected sweetness. Fathers praised its depth compared to plain roasts, demanding every drop of gravy be scraped from the pan. Mothers served it because tradition demanded it, and because a properly prepared Sauerbraten proved to neighbors alike that the household took cooking seriously. The dish carried fierce regional variations. Rhineland versions added raisins and Lebkuchen to the sauce, while Swabian cooks kept it simpler and sharper. Either way, Sauerbraten required planning that spoke of an era when housewives built entire weeks around a single roast. Kartoffelklöße, or knödel, turned potatoes into something almost celebratory. These dumplings, made from boiled and raw potato mixed with flour, accompanied roasts and stews throughout the winter months. In Thuringia, where dumpling culture ran deepest, families debated recipes with the intensity others reserved for football. Some preferred all potato dumplings, while others added bread cubes to the center. The process was labor-intensive, boiling, mashing, mixing, shaping, and then carefully lowering each dumpling into simmering water. Children watched anxiously as they floated to the surface, the sign they were ready. Fathers ate them by the plateful, and mothers bore the kitchen work because dumplings transformed an ordinary meal into something worth remembering. Labskaus tested even adventurous eaters. This sailor's dish from Hamburg and Bremen mixed salted beef, potatoes, and beetroot into a pink mash, topped with a fried egg and served with pickled herring and gherkins. The dish originated aboard ships where fresh ingredients were impossible to find, a practical solution to long voyages that somehow became tradition. Its appearance alone divided households, the beetroot turning everything an unsettling shade of pink. Children often refused it outright, pushing the mash around plates with visible disgust. Fathers who had worked the docks swore by its restorative properties, claiming no other dish could rebuild strength after a hard day quite like Labskaus. Mothers served it because the ingredients were cheap and plentiful. A tin of corned beef, a few potatoes, some beets from the cellar. The pickled herring on top was non-negotiable for purists. By the 1970s, Labskaus survived mostly in traditional restaurants and harborside Kneipen, ordered by tourists curious about authentic port cuisine, and by old sailors who remembered when it was simply what you ate. It remained survival food at its most honest, a dish that kept seafarers fed through the coldest months when fresh provisions were impossible to find. Königsberger Klopse brought Prussian heritage to winter tables. These meatballs, made from veal or pork mixed with anchovy paste and capers, simmer in a white sauce, enriched with egg yolk and lemon. The dish originated in Königsberg, now Kaliningrad, and it fled westward with refugees after the war. In the 1950s and the 1960s, it became comfort food for displaced families, a taste of home they could recreate in cramped West German flats. Children complained about the capers, fathers demanded extra sauce for their potatoes, and mothers made it because the memories attached to the dish outweighed the effort. By the 1970s, Königsberger Klopse appeared less frequently on family tables, remembered by an older generation with a wistfulness younger Germans could not quite understand. Kohlrouladen wrapped modest ingredients in cabbage leaves and called it a proper meal. Ground meat mixed with rice or breadcrumbs and spices was rolled into blanched cabbage, then braised in tomato sauce until tender. A single head of cabbage could stretch a small amount of meat into dinner for 6. In factory towns, where overtime pay fluctuated with production, Kohlrouladen offered reliability. Fathers appreciated the economy. Mothers valued the dish's ability to appear more generous than it really was. The dish took patience. It required blanching leaves without tearing them and rolling them tightly enough to hold together during cooking. Children often unrolled the rolls on their plates, eating the filling and the wrapper separately. Himmel und Erde, heaven and earth, combined the humble with the humbler still. Mashed potatoes mixed with applesauce, topped with fried blood sausage and crispy onions. The name referred to apples from the trees and potatoes from the ground. In the Rhineland, this dish appeared regularly on autumn and winter tables, a sweet-savory combination that polarized every household. Children often loved the apple sweetness. Fathers demanded extra blood sausage, and mothers served it because apples from autumn storage and potatoes from the cellar cost almost nothing by January. The dish survives in regional restaurants today, though rarely in the generous portions that once filled working-class bellies. Steckrüben Eintopf, turnip stew, carried memories of genuine hardship. During the turnip winter from 1916 to 1917, when food shortages left Germans to survive on little else, the humble Steckrübe became both salvation and a symbol of suffering. By the 1950s and the 1960s, turnip stew had lost its desperate associations, but remained on working-class tables as cheap winter fare. Housewives simmered the yellow-fleshed roots with potatoes, carrots, and whatever meat could be spared. Children often pushed the turnip pieces around their plates. Fathers ate without enthusiasm, and mothers served it because a single large turnip could fill a pot for pennies. The dish never regained respectability, and it was remembered less fondly than almost any other winter staple. Wurstbrei is a thick porridge made with sausage meat and grains. It appeared in farming communities where nothing could be wasted. Buckwheat or oats cooked with bits of sausage, blood, and fat created a dense, filling dish that sustained families through the darkest months. Children grimaced at its appearance. Fathers praised it as proper food for hard work, and mothers knew that a pot of Wurstbrei could stretch across several days without spoiling. By the 1970s, it had largely disappeared from urban tables, surviving only in rural kitchens where grandmothers remembered how to make it. Geisberger Marsch from Swabia combined beef, potatoes, and Spätzle in a hearty broth that satisfied the hungriest workers. Named for a Stuttgart neighborhood where it was supposedly invented for hungry soldiers, the dish packed calories into every spoonful. Spätzle, the soft egg noodles that defined Swabian cooking, gave body to the broth, while sliced beef provided protein. Children slurped the noodles eagerly. Fathers demanded bowls filled to the brim, and mothers appreciated how the combination stretched modest ingredients into a complete meal. Käsespätzle answered the universal craving for comfort with minimal meat. These soft egg noodles, layered with melted cheese and topped with crispy fried onions, became Germany's answer to macaroni and cheese. In Baden-Württemberg, where Spätzle culture ran deep, the dish appeared on tables rich and poor alike. Children rarely complained about this one. Fathers scraped their plates clean, and mothers valued the simplicity of flour, eggs, cheese, onions, and nothing more. By the 1970s, Käsespätzle had migrated from rural Swabia to urban canteens, a rare dish that transcended class boundaries. Milchreis, a rice pudding, offered softer winter sustenance. Rice simmered in milk until creamy, sweetened with sugar, and dusted with cinnamon. Children loved it, especially when a pat of butter melted into the center. In northern Germany, Milchreis was served warm as a main course on meatless days. Further south, it appeared as dessert or afternoon snack. The dish was cheap, filling, and universally tolerated, a rare point of agreement in households where almost every other food sparked debate. Grießbrei, semolina porridge, met similar needs with different textures. The fine wheat grains cooked quickly into a smooth paste, sweetened and topped with fruit compote or cinnamon sugar. Children either loved it or hated it, with no middle ground. School canteens served it relentlessly and cemented its reputation among certain generations as institutional food. At home, when made properly with butter and vanilla, Grießbrei could feel almost luxurious. Apfelmus, simple applesauce, accompanied countless winter meals. Stewed apples, often from autumn storage, appeared alongside potato dishes, with pancakes and as a dessert in their own right. Nothing was wasted. Bruised and spotted apples that could not be eaten fresh went into the pot. Mothers cooked enormous batches and canned them in jars for the months ahead. The smell of apples simmering with cinnamon and cloves defined autumn kitchens, and the preserved sauce sustained families through to spring. Armeritter, poor knights, transformed stale bread into something children actually requested. The German version of French toast consisted of slices of old bread soaked in egg and milk. then fried until golden and served with sugar or fruit compote. Mothers who had endured rationing treated waste as sin, and this dish proved that even yesterday's bread held value. Children loved the crispy edges and soft centers. Fathers accepted it as a decent breakfast, and the dish persisted long after prosperity made fresh bread affordable daily. Rotgrütze, red fruit pudding, provided northern Germany's answer to sweet cravings. A thick compote of raspberries, currants, and cherries, thickened with cornstarch and served with cream or vanilla sauce. The dish was simple, but required summer's preserved fruits to appear in winter. In Hamburg and Schleswig-Holstein, Rotgrütze was summer in a bowl, a reminder that the cold would eventually end. Children scraped their dishes clean. Adults appreciated its relative lightness after heavy meat dishes. Dampfnudeln, steamed yeast dumplings, straddled the line between main course and dessert. These pillowy mounds, cooked in a covered pan until the bottoms crisped in butter and sugar, could be served with vanilla sauce or alongside savory stews. In Bavaria and the Palatinate, they appeared on tables throughout winter, filling and economical. Children fought over the caramelized bottoms. Parents remembered them from their own childhoods, a dish that connected generations through texture and taste. Zwetschgenkuchen, a plum cake, was a way to preserve the summer harvest for winter enjoyment. Yeast dough was topped with halved plums, and sometimes a streusel topping, baked until the fruit softened and the edges crisped. Preserved plums made the cake possible year-round, though it tasted best with fruit still slightly tart from autumn picking. Sunday afternoon, coffee tables featured it regularly, served with whipped cream and eaten with the same small forks used for all German cakes. Quarkhäulchen, sweet potato, and quark pancakes from Saxony turned simple ingredients into treats. Mashed potatoes mixed with fresh quark cheese, eggs, and raisins, shaped into patties and fried until golden. Served with applesauce or simply dusted with sugar, they satisfied sweet cravings without requiring expensive ingredients. Children loved them. Adults remembered them from grandmother's kitchens, a dish so regional that even neighboring states had never heard of it. Winter food in post-war Germany was never about choice. It was about survival and thrift, and the transformation of modest ingredients into sustenance. Kitchens filled with the smells of stews, dumplings, and puddings that turned a few marks into meals for six. The economic recovery of the Wirtschaftswunder brought more variety to tables, but working-class habits persisted through the 1970s. Children grimaced at turnips and blood sausage. Fathers demanded second helpings of Spätzle, and mothers persevered with bread puddings that made stale loaves stretch one more day. Together, these 25 dishes formed the backbone of German winters. They carried families through drafty flats heated by coal stoves, uncertain wages, and long nights when the dark arrived by 4 in the afternoon. Some dishes crossed regional boundaries. Others remained fiercely local, unknown even in neighboring states. All of them required time that modern life rarely allows. Some are remembered fondly, others with grimaces, but all endure in memory as the foods that kept Germany fed. They were meals of necessity, remembered with both gratitude and relief that those winters are now only stories.